Hello, and welcome to Apex to Oval for your weekly motorsports news recap and some fun along the way. I'm Alex, your host. This is Jack, your co-host, my co-host. Let's just get right into the first question. What do we think about the weekend, Jack? Did you enjoy the racing? Did you not? We had all five major series in the US, so did we enjoy the racing?
It was enjoyable. It wasn't boring, but it was messy. I think that was the theme for the whole weekend. Was messy.
I agree with that somehow. First off, let's get into what we're going to do today. So we have three NASCAR news articles. We have three F1 news articles. We have our race recap for the Truck Series race. Our recap, and they'll go over for the Xfinity race. We have our recap for the World Cup Series race. We have our recap for the Formula One Miami Grand Prix, Sprint, and main race. And then we have our recap for the Children's of Alabama Indy Grand Prix, IndyCar Grand Prix. So let's get into the first NASCAR article. According to some sources, the PGA Tour, the golfing organization, has shown interest in hiring NASCAR Commissioner Steve Phelps as their new CEO. This comes after Phelps was just promoted to NASCAR's commissioner just 1 month ago. And I found a funny comment from Alex Jones NASCAR on the Twitter. And it said, "That's a terrible idea. First order of business, everyone must use spec clubs provided by the PGA. Second, the Masters will be settled with a 19th hole winner take all putt-putt round." Jack, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I'll be honest, I don't follow golf like in the slightest, so I have no thoughts as to like his fit for that role. Um, I do. My first thought seeing it was I wonder if that has anything to do with his promotion, right? Where we didn't really fully understand being like promoted to the first commissioner versus what his current role was. But if that was a promotion because this search has been going on for months, apparently. So if he was promoted to try to like sweeten the deal for him to stay, make it less attractive to jump ship to golf, then that would make a lot of sense. And NASCAR like is a more centralized sport where like he does have maybe more of an influence on the sport than some other commissioners might, but also it's not a one man operation and he is not the owner of the series to the point where like would it be a loss on the business side? Probably. On the fan side, I don't know how much of a difference it would really make.
I feel like a lot of fans would kind of be happy because maybe new change is coming, but then again, like we don't know how much of the people below him that could get promoted have been influencing some of the decisions made at the top levels. So who
I
really
think
knows?
you just get O'Donnell taking his place. Like I think that
Yeah,
you go down the list of Steves, but
yep,
like I don't think there's really going to be much of a shakeup.
yeah. There's probably not. On to our next second racing article. Lionel Racing, however you say it, a diecast company announced it will be halting availability of new diecasts as a temporary measure amid tariffs on Chinese imports. Lionel Racing says the only things on hold are new pre-orders and shipping from its factories. They also accompanied that with an announcement saying that they are planning on producing Austin Cindric's number two Talladega win, Kyle Larson's Cup and Xfinity Series Bristol wins, Jesse Love's first Cup start car, and Noah Gragson's World King Ride diecasts. It's sad that, things are coming to a halt, but it's a good thing that it's only the new diecasts that are going to be coming out, not the entire current diecasts. I think they also said there's a 5% increase on the price because of tariffs, I believe, is what it also said. So, Jack, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, that's what they said at least to start. We have no idea how that's going to change because the the problem with a lot of this, and I don't know, not to give an opinion one way or another politically, but there's been such little like clarity with it where companies are kind of figuring out on the fly what's going to actually happen or not. I mean, that's why the stock market was moving so much when they were announced, is because people didn't really believe it was going to happen until it did. And then there's been so much confusion and so much volatility around how it actually happens, where if you're any kind of company, either you are super conservative in how you adjust to it in the way that, outside of racing, but we just saw Microsoft bump up a lot of their pricing um, to adjust for, in a lot of cases, tariffs. Um, and, if you're a diecast company that either is sourcing material or manufacturing the diecast completely overseas, it's going to cost a lot more now. And it may still be a while until we figure out how much it'll cost in the long term because that hasn't really been moving. And so I think that halting is better than doubling the price of the diecasts in the meantime. Like pausing to figure it out instead of having people pay double or even more if it's from China what the price like was before.
Yeah, I agree. I think halting is a good thing. Does it suck? Yeah, but also like nobody knows what's going on with these tariffs, so a precautionary stoppage isn't the worst possible thing. Um, On to our third and final NASCAR article. Racetracks in Iowa now have new rules for residents. So if you live near a racetrack in Iowa, you can no longer make noise complaints if the track was there before you moved in, meaning you can't sue the track for being loud if you moved in after the racetrack was built or just there. This new law includes not only the track, but also spectator areas, garages, and any associated grounds or buildings used to operate races, and this law will take effect on July 1st. I believe this is a really big step for motorsports and racetracks in general. I think this should be in every state, if not already in every state, because a lot of people are going to complain about racetracks. Yeah, it gets really loud. Like, let's be honest. If you're at the race, you're wearing like earplugs, you're wearing headphones, you're wearing
Huh.
earmuffs. Like, you're
You
wearing
should
something
be.
to. You should realistically, but if you don't, that's an issue on your part. But you should, and that proves how loud it is. So making sure that you can't complain if you move there after the racetrack is built, I think is a big step in the right direction. Anyway, Jack,
But
what are your thoughts on this?
this is I wish this was a thing like everywhere just because I get that it probably annoys you that the track is loud, but also it was there when you moved there. It's the same thing as how airports get so many complaints when it like the airport was there. That's why your house like that was priced into the price of your house. You didn't get an amazing deal. You got a house next to an airport. You know what I mean? Like that just is part of the location and you can't like people have been historically trying to kind of force change by like moving in and then being like, oh, it's too loud. Um, and that's played a huge role in Nashville. Like, you know how NASCAR races at Nashville Super Speedway right now?
Yeah.
There's been, I'll say, effort over years now to get NASCAR to race at the Nashville Fairground Speedway, which, mind you, an active racetrack. But there and many other places, like those plans are taking so long because of resident opposition to a lot of the noise. There are other racetracks whose futures have been put in jeopardy because of noise complaints, and at least whose like NASCAR futures have been. And like it, the track was there longer than a lot of these people have been alive, and operating longer than a lot of these people have been alive. It's insane.
All right. On to our first F1 news article. The Formula One Miami Grand Prix will be staying on the calendar until 2041, which means 16 more years of the Miami Grand Prix. Most of the reactions were bad. And one of the fan, George underscore Taylor 94, said, meanwhile, Spa is getting rotated. Stefano said it's difficult to have two races in one country. The US has three, two of which are just showing money. Great tracks are left unused, and continents like Africa get nothing. Insane. And personally, I kind of feel bad. Like, I don't and I do. Like, that's a long time for a racetrack, especially for a track that isn't permanent and that is literally a road course. Jack, do you have any discussion points on this?
I so 16 years is a long time. I don't think that the Miami track is the best track ever invented, but I think the fake marina and stuff is a little cringy, but I think that they have done a pretty good job with the race weekend, like everything surrounding it. Um, who knows? Miami might be underwater by the time that contract runs out. But I what I kind of want to focus on, and this is going to be very like herder American of me, but I don't have any problem with the U.S. having three races when people's complaints are that European countries maybe get one. Because the United States is like basically the exact same size as Europe. I think that Europe is larger by the size of the state of New Mexico, if I remember right. Like as far as the US versus the entire continent of Europe, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about three races that are spread not perfectly across, right? You're not really hitting the northeastern, like, you could probably cut half the country and like land-wise and not hit an F1 race. But
The
Las
top half.
Vegas, yeah, Las Vegas, Texas, and Miami are still spread like east to west pretty well. Um, where the distance and the audiences those serve are about as varied as a race like as the audiences served by, I don't want to say Monaco. That was the first one that came to mind because I was thinking France. But if you want to think about Belgium and Germany, they're not terribly far from each other. You're covering a lot more distance between Miami and Texas, I believe, than you would between tracks at those two countries, right? And the U.S. population, I think, is half the population of the entire like continent of Europe. So yeah, sure. Like if you're doing it per country, it seems really unfair. But I don't agree with that like level of analysis when a lot of times you can compare the US versus the entire EU pretty well, right?
Yeah. Anyway, let's get on to our second F1 article. Max Verstappen and Kelly Piquet had a baby. They had a kid this past week. Um, they had their daughter named Lily a few days before the Miami Grand Prix, and Max missed Thursday's media day to spend time with her, approved by the FIA, so he won't get any repercussions from spending time with his kid. Big ups to the FIA for doing that because they're a bunch of a-holes, and I personally thought if his child was born during the season, they wouldn't let him go, but they did. Let him spend time with his daughter, which is nice. Um, yeah, I mean it's a news story. I mean it's big. I mean Max, I do have to say for Max fans and F1 fans that Max did bring up in an interview not too long ago, maybe a little long ago. I don't remember when it was fully, but he did say that when he has his own kid, and I mean his own kid, like his like Penelope is a little older, so she didn't really count towards it. But when he has his own baby, he's going to raise from the ground up. He would retire, and he has a kid now. So we're gonna play a little game. Before I let you talk, Jack. Under or over? Do you think Max Verstappen will retire at this season, at the end of the season, or will he continue?
Uh, You said under over, but I don't know how that
Under
converts to
over,
answering the
under or
question.
over till the end of the season, he retires.
Oh, clearly over. I don't think he retires at the end of the year either.
I don't know because I don't know how. I'm gonna say under. I think he's gonna retire at the end of the year. I think if Red Bull don't improve, he's gone.
I think he would leave Red Bull. I don't think he's done racing. I think that you can kind of see in
That I
him
don't
that,
think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's definitely gonna race in some other series, but I don't think he's like it's not gonna be a full-time drive like it has the past 10
oh, see, I
years. Like it's
disagree. I
he has a kid to raise. Like that's my whole thing. It's
I
like
I still think
he's
he
you're talking
envisioned that
about
happening at the back end of his career. I think that he's still like in his prime, and you can say that, and then having the competitive drive that he clearly has, I think it might be a different story.
yeah,
I think
I
he
don't know. I'm
might
on the fence, but I think he's
he
gonna
might
retire.
be less invested in it. He might do more traveling, kind of back and forth. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't see him leaving the series.
I do. because he is a kid. He should take care of that kid. He
Um,
should let all of us, sleep easy and just retire, please.
this
I
actually,
love you,
I
Max. You're a great freaking driver, but please let me sleep because I've been having so many sleepless nights because you scare the crap out of me and give me PTSD from 2021, even though I never watched. Continue with.
speaking of speaking of PTSD. Not at all. Speaking of it, actually, but did you see the clip of Yuki going, "Hey, Big Daddy"? Because
Oh
that
my
has been
God.
stuck in my brain.
Dude, who was he saying that to?
Like I'm pretty sure it was like in an interview about this of like, oh, what do you want to say to Max? Like around
Oh
when it
my God,
happened,
you're right. It was to
and
that. That
Yuki
was,
was just,
dude,
"Hey, Big
comedy
Daddy."
freaking gold.
like I
Comedy,
love
dude,
Yuki,
Yuki
man.
Tsunoda, you are so funny, dude. That's
Uh,
dude, I forgot, I literally forgot seeing that, but I did see that on TikTok the day Max's like announcement was made, and I was like, what the fudge? Like, Yuki, what are you doing? Like, God
I've seen it like
damn.
everywhere since too. I love it.
Um, anyway, onto our final F1 article. Allegedly, Jack Doohan is no longer at Alpine. Allegedly.
Well,
So here's why I say allegedly. Let me explain. So,
technically, he's still gonna be at Alpine.
well, technically he's going to be Alpine, but he's going to be replaced
Yeah,
by probably Franco Colapinto.
yeah.
According to the publication The Race, Doohan is being removed for the Imola Grand Prix and beyond after his recent DNF in Miami. In 6 races in Formula One, Doohan achieved 2 DNFs, 0 wins, 0 podiums, 0 points, with a highest finish of 14th place. Again, this is alleged. The Race is the only publication that has reported he is gone, while others have just speculated or being say or saying it is being considered. Um,
It
Now reported by the BBC and Moores a few hours ago. Seems confirmed, but obviously not confirmed by the team. Obviously, and I take things publicized, publicated, fuck,
published.
however you say it,
Uh,
published, um, with a grain of salt until the team says something. Because that's what I did with the Yuki thing, and the Yuki and Lawson things. Just take it with a grain of salt. Like, yeah, some of these publications that are like well known will be saying it. Don't fully believe it until you see the team. Like, take it with a grain of salt. So
Yeah, I mean, there's always space for the team to backtrack on it once it's announced, but I think once the BBC also reports it, because the race is a pretty reputable outlet to the point where like
yeah,
other major F1 reporters were reporting based on that, and motorsports reporters in general. Like I know we talked about stories by Adam Stern earlier in the show, and Adam Stern reported on the race report. The BBC, I think separately, although it could just be that they didn't cite the race as part of it because they just cited insiders. But the BBC also reported on it, several hours after the race did. So we'll see, but it doesn't help that this was also something we expected since the start of the season.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. How do you think Doohan did versus expectations?
I don't really know because he's a rookie and Gasly really hasn't performed other than like 2 races. So like,
And Gasly's a good
I don't
driver.
know.
Like Doohan, this was the first weekend he outqualified Gasly, but he hasn't been that far behind. Like we talked about
No.
it especially early on that Doohan was performing better than we thought. I think.
Yeah, that Alpine just isn't good.
No.
Here's the issue, right? Like, you have 2 DNFs, which are bad, but again, that's not terrible. Like,
And look
Franco
at
had
how
more
they like
DNFs.
happened too. like
Yeah, like Franco had more DNFs in like a span of 4 or 5 races last year than anyone else. So like, if you're gonna promote Colapinto, then
this
he's
is
gonna be fast,
yeah.
but expect DNFs.
This is like
Maybe
Red
they're
Bull
just
style
looking
driver
to
management.
yeah, it's bad. It's real bad.
It's
Um,
I like because we knew it was coming, I'm not surprised, but also it doesn't annoy me any less.
no, it pisses me off. He was doing well for the most part. Like, why?
Yeah, he
Like,
was not the worst rookie. he has not been the worst
no,
rookie.
no, Liam Lawson, I'm talking to you, bud.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on to our race recaps. So, first up on Friday, we had the SpeedyCash.com 250 truck race. Jack, you had Carson Hocevar, who finished 17th, and I picked Corey Heim, who finished first. Um, just to preface, normally me and Jack would have almost identical picks. The only reason why Jack picks people that are sucky is because he gives
Hey,
second
hey,
lot to me
hey,
because I get the
hey,
doc ready. We were on a Google Doc and I get the doc
sucky,
ready, which means when I get it ready for the podcast, I get first pick. And normally I go
sucky,
with the team that does better.
sucky.
Um,
No, but I
hey,
also hear it's not
hey.
like Koreheim ran away with this race whatsoever.
I mean, he led nine. Well,
Well, I
we'll get
meant
into
like,
that. We'll get it.
yeah,
We'll get
we'll
into
get
that.
into it,
We'll
but
we'll get into that. Your winner was Corey Heim. Your remaining top ten was Daniel Hemrick at two, followed by Raja Caruth, Tyler Ankrum, Tano Gray, Ben Rhodes, Matt Crafton, Bailey Curry, Dawson Sutton, and Ty Majeski rounding out the top 10. Your DNFs, there were a lot. Matt Mills, Jake Garcia, Connor Mozak, Grant Emfinger, Stuart Friesen, Frankie Muniz, Tony Bradinger, Luke Fenhouse, Lance Riggs, Andres Perez de Laura, Brandon Jones, Gio Rogerio, and Caden Honeycutt. Some fun facts for you. There are 15 lead changes among 9 drivers, 11 cautions for 57 yellow flag laps. Your stage 1 winner was Grant Enfinger. Your stage 2 winner was Corey Heim. Most laps led was Corey Heim with 96. Fastest lap was Carson Hosebar with a 29.74 seconds. And your most points on the day was Corey Heim with 56. I did not watch the most of this race because I was cleaning out my door. So, Jack, how was the race?
um, it was it was, um, it I think that the big thing worth talking about with it, it was kind of messy at some points. I know, Frankie Muniz actually, like, it was his own fault he crashed out for once, and he was very upset about it. Um, I don't remember the exact circumstances for a fair amount of the other DNFs, just because there were so many cautions. Um, but the main highlight was towards the end, right before I think the first overtime. There was a beautiful move where I think Heim had fallen to third on the track, basically. I forget who it was that went outside of him. It might have been Hemrick. It might have been like maybe Rhodes or Anchorham or someone. But someone else that was kind of in that top area was, I believe, around the top. Raja Karuth took the lead down the bottom. Heim fell back to third, but the caution came out for a crash, and when that happens, they go back to the previous timing loop, which put Heim back in first, and from there he stayed ahead in the next, I think, two restarts, because I think they had another overtime after that. But maybe I'm getting my races
No,
mixed up.
no, there was a second overtime.
But went from setting up for one of the most beautiful finishes I would have seen in a while, um, especially for Truck Series, which hadn't had overtimes in quite a while. I think it had been like a 20 plus like green flag finish streak, um, and it kind of press undo on that move, and then you get some boring restarts to finish it out. At least in my opinion, boring compared to that one. But
Yeah, it was. I got to catch the ending. I was at a party at the end of the race, so I caught the ending because I didn't want to socialize. Um, and so I saw Heim win, but yay, my pick was right, but at what cost? Dude, I would have much rather have had Caruth win. Anyway, the next truck race is a 134 lap race at Kansas Speedway, the Heart of America 200, this Saturday, May 10th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Your previous winner at Kansas was Corey Heim in May and September of 2024. My prediction is Raja Caruth gets his get back and wins this race. Jack, who was your prediction?
well, for one of the first times in ever, Corey Heim is on the board for me to take, and I think that we're at a mile and a half that he swept last year. and you so graciously left them open for me. So I'm gonna snap that
Yeah,
up, and surely he's not gonna win this week now that I've done that, but might as well.
yeah, he's not winning. Um, On to our Xfinity recap. We have the Andes Frozen Custard 300 Xfinity race. Jack, you had Sam Mayer, who finished fifth, and I had Austin Hill, who finished fourth. Your winner was Kyle Larson for his second win of the NASCAR Xfinity Series season. Your remaining top 10 was Taylor Gray in second, followed by Riley Herbst, Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, Harrison Burton, Jesse Love, Ryan Sieg, Brandon Jones, and Jeff Burton in 10th. Your DNFs were Jeremy Clements, Leland Honeyman, Justin Allgaier, Sheldon Creed, Christian X, and Josh Williams. Some fun facts. You had 12 lead changes among 12 lead changes among 6 drivers, 11 cautions for 62 yellow flag laps. Stage 1 was won by Justin Allgaier. Stage 2 was won by Austin Hill. Most laps led was Justin Allgaier with 99. Your fastest lap was also Justin Allgaier with 29.82 seconds. And the most points on the day was Austin Hill with 50. Um, Sad to see Justin Allgaier not on the winner's
He
podium, whatever
was
you want to call it,
dominant.
after such a dominant race. Jack, what happened?
Uh, Wrecked.
Thanks. What else? Yeah. What else,
uh,
Jack?
this was another one that was set up for an interesting finish and then wasn't. Um, it it was another one where sorry, give me like 2 seconds. I'm pulling up my notes, but
Yes. So, yo, you write notes? That's what I should do.
occasionally,
I need to
but
write notes because I forget
yeah.
what happens
So
in these damn races.
Allgaier ran right into the back of Pittsburgh legend Chris Wright, who I think did what what's her name? What Catherine Legg was accused of doing, where he like couldn't pick a lane. Allgaier was trying to go around the top based on what was available to him, and then Wright got loose, and Allgaier slammed into the back of him, and there was nothing really to do from there. He was cooked. That was the second incident slash near incident caused by Chris Wright with the leaders that race, because Chris Wright was like literally just a moving traffic cone out there. It was disastrous, and I'm embarrassed to say that I'm pretty sure he's like the only Pittsburgh area driver in the field. Thanks entirely due to his parents owning a chain of car dealerships and not actual racing talent, but I digress. Um, and Yet again, we had a wonderful move to take the lead and a wonderful restart that got erased by a caution. And Kyle Larson, because he was on newer tires, was able to take the lead after that, like during that final restart, and win the race. Sam Mayer actually was the one, like, my pick was the one who made the beautiful move to take the lead. And then after the restart, it was so over. And Larson ended up pulling it out.
I did. I did again catch the end of it because Jack again messaged me about what was going on, and I just got to the hotel on campus because my mom was staying there. So while I was taking a shower, I listened to Caleb Race, and I was disappointed to say the least. Um, yeah, I have something to say about Saturday, but I'll get to that. We'll get to that during the F1 sprint talk. Um, On to the Cup Series, the Worth 400. Jack had Kyle Larson, who finished fourth. I had William Byron, who finished 13th. Jack finally beat me in one of these. Um,
I'll take it.
your winner was Connecticut King Joey Logano. Your remaining top 10 was Ross Chastain at P2, followed by Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon, John Hunter Nemchek, Christopher Bell, and Daniel Suarez in 10th. And your DNFs, again, there's a lot of them, are Chase Briscoe, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Preece, Cody Ware, Jesse Love, Josh Berry, Bubba Wallace, Noah Gragson, Alex Bowman, AJ Allmendinger, Chad Fincham, Denny Hamlin, and Michael McDowell. Also, shout out to Michael McDowell, who made a great move on, I believe it was Kyle Larson, late in the race. to take the lead, then got passed by Blaney, Ross, and Logano. Or no, he got passed by Blaney and Logano and then proceeded to shit the bed and DNF. So, but you had a really good, like, 1.5 laps where you were at the lead. It was more than that. It was more like 3 laps or 4 laps that you were at the lead and you did good. And then you lost the lead and shit the bed. But I think overall it was a good race. I was pissed when Bubba DNF'd by Joey Logano. Anyway, your fun facts. There was 20 lead changes among 13 drivers, 12 cautions for 73 yellow flag laps. Stage 1 winner was Austin Cindric. Stage 2 winner was Kyle Larson. Most laps led was Kyle Larson with 90. Fastest lap was Carson Hocevar with a 28.56-second lap. And the most points on the day was Kyle Larson with 50. I thought it was a good race. Jack, what do you think?
I yeah, I thought it was like fine for Texas. I mean, obviously with the next gen car, Texas has been a little more watchable. I still have nightmares about previous Texas, which was like the most boring track on the calendar. So I don't know. The expectations are still kind of low going in, but I thought it was a fine race for Texas. I think that Spire had really good speed. Justin Haley not so much, although even he was in the top 10 until late. But Hocevar on pole. Um, McDowell qualified fifth, and then obviously was in contention for the win late. Hocevar was running away with the race at the beginning until disaster struck later on. He ended up back in the field, cycled around with strategy stuff, and got taken out. But they were like legitimately fast this week, and Logano kind of came out of nowhere at the end. Like he wasn't good all day, but he was good enough when it mattered.
I mean, I would say he was consistently in the top 10. He just never near the lead until the very end.
Yeah, he didn't really stick out on speed. He was just kind of good enough.
Yeah. Ross Chastain also came out of nowhere. That was nuts.
Yeah,
That was
he
weird.
his car like wasn't good all day, but then suddenly the Trackhouse guys like, well, I will say with a couple laps to go, I was all happy seeing SVG in like 18th. He finished 22nd. But then I remember that there were 25 cars on the track. So like 18th isn't
Right.
really like that impressive.
Yeah.
But Suarez ended up in the top 10 as well. And Chastain, like, he wasn't that fast for most of the day, but in those late restarts, I mean, he might be the best restarter in the series, which is kind of a known consistent thing. But the car had it at the end, so it's good for him,
Yeah.
good for them.
The next Cup Series race is a 267 lap race at Kansas this Sunday, May 11th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Advent Health 400. Previous winners were Kyle Larson in May 2024 and Ross Chastain in September 29th. So, or was September 2024. So that's kind of why I put Ross there. Um, and that is my prediction is Ross Chastain because it's watermelon time. Jack, who do you have?
First of all, I'd like to say that I like the Ross Chastain pick. I don't think it'll show up in my
Thank you.
camera, but I do, in fact. One of the Squishmallows behind me is wearing a Ross Chastain hat today. Um, but right in front,
Is it the Texas one? No, it's not the Texas one.
no, 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 no. The Texas one is
There you
separate.
go. I think I've did it. I think I did it. You're pinned now, so
Haha.
you can see it next to the Snorlax. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hope
and
that goes
then
through. I hope it doesn't shorten.
and then right in front of that Squishmallow, there is one of my multiple Fuecoco plushies, um, wearing a Bubba Wallace hat because that's who I'm picking this week, and so obviously I had to put him in front of Ross Chastain. But
Bub Wall.
Bub Wall, exactly, exactly. But Bubba won at Kansas a few years ago now when he was, technically in the 45 for like owners points reasons. I'm pretty sure when Kurt Busch was hurt, but that was a dominant win. And in general, like more than many other mile and a halves, Bubba has been really strong at Kansas. Um, and 2311, like Bubba was running top 10 like all day at Texas. It felt like Tyler Reddick was running really well um, for a lot of the day until late as well. But 2311's been pretty fast. Shoot, even Riley Herbst was running in like the top 10 for a while yesterday, but they've been fast, and I think it is time for Bubba to finally make the playoffs. Like, with a win, please. Please win not during the playoffs when you're not a playoff driver.
Please, Bubble, please. Um, good picks all around. On to the Miami Grand Prix, the Formula One Miami Grand Prix. Jack and I did pretty good this week. Now,
I,
granted, it's really easy to do well. It's really easy to do well because there's two McLaren drivers. Um, Jack had Lando Norris, and I had Oscar Piastri for the weekend. Lando was first in the sprint and second in the main race. Oscar was second in the sprint and first in the main race. I did get more points overall, though. But let's get into it. Your sprint win- your sprint winner was Lando Norris, and your remaining sprint points finishes were Oscar Piastri in P2, Lewis Hamilton P3, and then to round out the podium. And then George Russell, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Kimi Antonelli, and then Pierre Gasly in P8. And your DNFs for the sprint was Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, and Charles Leclerc. Now this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit real quick. Did Lando Norris deserve the race win? Absolutely not. But he got it because of it. Alonso. Well, actually, it wasn't even Alonso's fault. It was, guess who? Liam
Liam
Lawson's fault,
Lawson!
who crashed into Alonso, causing Alonso to go into the wall, causing the safety car, and giving Lando the win.
Yeah.
The safety car was there for like 4 laps. And this is not deserving. This is. So I texted Jack on Discord, and I was like, this is. Oh, what did I say? It was like not.
The first
Undeserving
ever full
winners.
undeserved race
Oh,
win
yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah, the first ever fully undeserved race win Saturday, where every single race on a specific day was completely undeserved. Both Lando Norris in the sprint and Kyle Larson in the Xfinity Series did not deserve their wins and got the win. So, congratulations. Um,
I don't know if it's like it was strategy quirks, right? Where Lando was running long
no.
because he was behind Piastri, but then the safety car came out at a time that benefited him. It's not like he didn't deserve it because he was pushing people off track. It's just how the strategy worked out.
So, Lando was gonna pit at some point during the race, probably
Yeah, like
after
right.
Oscar.
No,
If
yeah,
he did pit, well, he pitted obviously on the safety car, but if he didn't pit under the safety car, he would
yeah,
have been underneath Oscar.
yeah. He also would have been
And maybe behind
behind
Lewis
Lewis.
too. Let's be very honest. Lewis
I
was
mean,
rapid on them damn
there's a
tires.
non-zero chance that Lewis wins the race, like wins the
Yeah,
sprint race somehow.
yeah,
If that like goes,
damn,
if that goes green all the way, like it,
yeah,
the Ferrari for once got something right strategy-wise and
yep.
didn't let that last long. But yeah, Lando benefited from the safety car. I mean, undeserved versus what other people were like. Like, did someone else run well enough to maybe like deserve the win? Yes. It's not like Lando
Lewis.
just like completely lucked into it though. Like he was still running pretty well.
He was running pretty well, but he was pretty far behind Oscar. He's like a couple seconds behind Oscar. Anyway, on to the main race. Your winner was Oscar Piastri, the GOAT. Your remaining points finishers were Lando Norris in P2, George Russell in P3 to round out your podium, and then Max Verstappen, Alex Albon, Kimi Antonelli, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, and Yuki Tsunoda in P10. Your DNFs were Jack Doohan, Ollie Behrman, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Liam Lawson. Most laps led was Oscar Piastri with 44. Fastest lap was Lando Norris with a 1:29.7 on lap 36. Your fastest total pit stop was Kick Sauber and Bortoleto with a 22.188 second pit stop. And your time between first and second place was 4.63 seconds. And your most total points on the day was Oscar Piastri with 32. It was a boring race. Let's be very honest other than the midfield. All right, the midfield is lit now. The McLarens are too rapid, and
It
the
was a boring
midfield
race except
is
for like 16 cars.
turnt. Yeah, except for like the two cars at the front, the race was pretty freaking good.
Yeah,
Albon
which is
had an
fine.
amazing overtake on Kimi early in the race to secure fifth. Yeah, fifth. Lewis and Charles were bickering on the radio the entire time about who gets track position.
Well, hang on. Hang
Um,
on. They were not arguing with each other. They were largely on the same page. The team was not
yeah, but
communicating
the
well
team
at all.
sucked.
Yeah.
It's
No, like
typical Ferrari.
so I just because, and I didn't see a lot of Lewis fans doing this, luckily, but when the initial saga was going on, I was fully prepared for like there to be kind of animosity, like from Lewis fans toward Charles and vice versa when it kind of flipped back around, and neither was really the case. People generally recognized that the drivers knew what was up, and both of them thought that the team was being stupid.
Yeah. Well, okay, the first swap wasn't stupid because Lewis was faster
No, the
than Charles.
first swap not happening for 3 laps was what was stupid. Lewis burned up his
Oh, yeah,
tires because he was on softer tires, and they waited for 3 laps before they even asked Charles.
yeah.
Like,
Well, that's stupid. But the first swap was fine, and
no,
then
the idea
Charles
was
ended up being
good, but when
faster.
you wait 3 laps to do it, suddenly the idea is no longer good. Suddenly the tire advantage is gone when he's in dirty air asking to get by for 3 laps.
Exactly. Yeah. That.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they
That's what I
undo
meant.
it at kind of a bad time where like undoing it was also the right move after they screwed it up in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because by that point Charles's tires were better.
Hmm.
But they also didn't communicate that right. They told Charles that he was going to let him by before they ever told Lewis anything. Like they didn't even
Yeah.
ask Lewis.
No,
And then they
they.
told Charles they're like, "Okay, we'll try that again." And then that was the first time that they actually got on Lewis's radio and said anything.
Yeah, dude. Ferrari sucks, dude. I don't know what's their issue.
I
Maybe
saw
just
I
stop.
saw people saying this, but I fully agree that I think it would work out better if they just let Lewis and Charles talk to each other directly on the radio.
Oh my God, do you know how nice that would be? Dude, they should allow
Cuz
every
they
team to have driver to driver.
like if you listen to the way that both drivers were talking, neither was upset at the other. They were both upset at the
No.
team and felt bad for the other. Like they
Yeah.
seemed to agree on what the strategy should have been.
Hmm.
They just didn't
And the
have
team
the information
sucks.
and like communication going right between them.
Yeah, that was just an L. And then Carlos ran into Lewis at the end of the race, like the very final
Yeah, a
corner.
little bit,
Carlos
kind of
like
just, you
completely
know.
just didn't brake and just boom. It's like Carlos, what are you doing?
I loved when on the
I'm
radio he was
surprised
like,
Carlos did. I'm surprised Carlos didn't get a penalty for that because that was gross.
yeah, and then on the radio
How?
Carlos was like blaming Lewis for that, and I
He
feel like I
moved
remember
up the
his team even
brake,
going like, yeah,
motherfucker.
okay.
He took the turn. What do you
Um,
mean he moved under braking? He took the turn the way the turn was supposed to be turning. Like,
but meanwhile,
I still
okay,
think that.
actually, speaking of coaching, have you seen
Yeah.
there are Verstappen fans that are so upset about the McLaren radio saying the most normal thing? They were like,
What happened?
because like Max was like complaining about his brakes, and then McLaren like on the radio was like, okay, like to Lando was like, okay, Max is complaining about his brakes, like stay behind him, make sure that he like uses them up, right? Like
Hmm.
basically try to force a mistake because he's complaining about his brakes because it's hard to pass at Miami even if he's a second a lap slower. Um,
Yeah.
and there are Max fans all over talking about like McLaren being like war criminals and how it was like inexcusable that they were saying that. Like that's just racing.
No, that
That is
is
the
racing.
most
You want a
normal
mistake.
possible radio message ever. Especially in F1 where you are not passing on pure speed like at
Yeah.
all unless you're talking about like the first car and the last car, you need to either find a gap, force a gap or force a mistake.
Yeah. That no, that's just regular racing. I mean, he didn't say kill him. Like, no, he
No.
said just force a mistake. You let him use his brakes. There's no issue with that. It's the same thing about let him use his tires. Like,
Yeah, no, it's the same exact
it's the
sentiment.
same thing. It's the same thing, just different font. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean?
It
Um,
it was wild seeing that.
yeah,
'Cause I was
but
like, and people are like
uh,
so upset about it, and I'm like, this is also Max you're talking about.
yeah, this
Like,
is Max. On to the Children of Alabama Indy Grand Prix, the IndyCar race. Jack had Kyle Kirkwood, who finished 11th, and I had Alex Palou, who finished first. Now, here's the thing. I watched maybe 10 laps of this race. Pelot built up a massive gap in those 10 laps, and then I shut off the race because I'm like, this isn't really fun to watch. It's an Alex Pelot
You
masterclass.
gotta. I think you also complaining about the F1 race. I think you gotta learn to watch not just the leaders. Because the F1 race,
That's
I would
fair.
also I would argue was like very good. Besides the McLarens running away from it, like running
I
away with it.
said that. I said
Yeah,
it was
but you
the
said
front.
it was
The,
you
what
said it
do
was
you
a
mean?
boring race. You said let's get this out of the way. It was a boring
I
race.
said the front two was a what?
Yeah, but
I said
you opened the talk about F1 saying it was a boring race. And then you said, yeah,
but
but
then
some stuff was happening in the midfield and kind of walked it back. But like that was the opener.
yeah, because the front two is what everyone cares about for realistically. Nobody cares about the midfield. Like everyone, like a lot of
If you're
people care about
watching
the
a
midfield.
full
I did,
race,
but like,
if you're watching a full race as a race fan, I think that you
well,
want to
that's
watch
why I said the
racing.
midfield was good. That's why I said the midfield better was good.
Yeah, and it
Remember?
was in IndyCar as well.
Yeah, but I don't like the racing. For some reason I just don't fuck with the racing in IndyCar. I don't know why. I just don't like it as much
You
as
said you
F1
watched the
or
first 10
NASCAR.
laps.
Yeah, I watched the first 10
So that
laps
means that
of
you
both the
saw the
produced like
drama with the early pit stuff too.
yeah.
Did you have the commentary on? Did you like know what was
No.
happening? Okay, that might
No, I
explain it.
didn't think I was around. Well, because I had what's it called on? Well, I tried. So here's the thing. I was having issues with my computer the entire time. So I
Because I was
didn't
like,
get
it's
because
like
the
this race
sound
did
didn't
not
work. So
suck.
like
It was
yeah, well
Alex Palou ran away with it. That was never close. From second on back,
yeah.
it was a very interesting race.
Well, Alex Palou won. Your remaining podium was Christian Lundgaard and Scott McLaughlin. Your DNFs were none. There were three race leaders during the race. Alex Palou, who led 81 laps. Marcus Armstrong, who led 6 laps. And Scott McLaughlin, who won 3 laps. Fastest lap was Scott McLaughlin with a 1 minute 7.8 seconds lap. Your fastest average speed was Alex Palou at 116 and a half miles per hour. And your most points was Alex Palou with 54. Now talk about what happened. I
So obviously the different leaders are due to differences in pit cycles because there were some people trying to do a 2 stop, some people trying to do a 3 stop, and some forced into maybe a 4 stop
yeah.
due to different issues. But basically from second on back, this one was a really interesting race to the point where like the broadcast focused on Pelot running away with it and talking about how dominant he was at the beginning, and then the entire rest of the broadcast was like, well, maybe once per lap we'll check in on Pelot for like 2 seconds and be like, yeah, he's still running away, and then the rest of the focus was on everyone else. It was really funny. But Lundgaard was really good all day. And the race in the rest of the top five was really interesting. Rinus VK for Dale Coyne Racing had a really good showing. Um, Colton Herta continues to be cursed. I think that he is permanently cursed from ever getting a podium. I think that God hates him, if we're being honest. Once again, he was running well and he had an issue in the pits. Like it's just constant. There's always an issue with him, and with the Andretti cars, it feels like. But it was good. There was action, especially around where the pit exit is at Barber is really interesting because you exit the pits at about racing speed already. So there was a lot of really interesting, not drama per se, but like action where people were coming out of the pits and the timing of that being like really lined up. Um, and so like I don't know. I think in general, it's the theme with IndyCar historically has been that because it's a spec series, it's some of the like closest and best open wheel racing you can see. Um, right? Because you've got better drivers than the development series like F2, F3, F4. You know, if nothing else, because you're not forced out of it once you win. Um, and you've got more parity than you do in F1 and deeper fields and all that. And you still see that in IndyCar, but Pelot is too damn good. like, like I don't. And it's a shame that like you need these in a sport, right? Like just like with Lewis at Mercedes and F1, like having this kind of dominance makes you both appreciate when you don't have it and is like it's historic, right? He is being historically dominant, but also it's kind of a shame that it's happening right when they're now on main channel Fox for every race. They're switching to a new TV like channel. They're have all this promotion coming in, and it's Alex Palou running away with the win in 3 out of 4 races. Where like the racing product here was good, but also you shut it off after 10 laps because Palou was ahead, and you didn't care for the rest of it, right? And as much as I can say that the racing product is still really good, I think that you're right, and that a casual fan tuning in for the first time is going to say, "Oh, the guy ahead's winning by 30 seconds. Why would I watch this?"
I think also for me, it's like, unlike F1, where I already had an attachment to Lewis before I even started watching fully, like with IndyCar, I don't have an attachment to anyone.
Then pick a driver.
I I don't know who to pick. Dude, I've asked this before. Like, what driver do I pick? I just don't know. Like, none. Like, yeah, I don't know yet. I haven't gotten to pick a driver yet, but I will figure it out at some point. So I'm more interested in it. But yeah, I mean, when you see a driver up 30 seconds in the first 10 laps, that wasn't realistic. But like, you know what I mean? When you see a driver up by a lot the first 10 laps, you're like, he's gonna win, barring any issues. He's gonna win. So like, yeah.
But yeah, it was Christian Lundgaard has been really impressive all year. Um, he was a great kind of signing to bring in for it's now fully McLaren, right? Arrow's out. Well, Arrow's still a
I think
sponsor,
Aero's
but they're not
still
like
no Aero's still a sponsor.
they're still a sponsor, but I don't think they like own the team anymore. Um, I forget the exact specifics on that, but um, I I don't know. In any case, he's outrunning Pato Award, which is impressive in its own right. And he's also running really well in general this year. Obviously, not winning races, but Alex Palou exists. And Scott
Alex
McLaughlin in a
Alex
Penske.
Palou.
I think he had won the last 2 races here at Barber, if I remember right, or maybe I'm thinking of a different track. But CMP3 is not necessarily surprising, but fun to see. And then Rinus VK again, really impressive for him to get a top 5 in that car. And I forget who rounded out the top 5. Oh, darn it.
Scott McLaughlin was the 2024 winner, and Scott McLaughlin was the no Alex Palou was no Alex Palou was 2024.
I'm thinking of
Sorry,
a different track. Never mind. I think.
Scott McLaughlin was 2023 and 2024.
Oh no, okay, it was
Barber
Barber.
winner, completed the podium, finishers third. What? I'm
Anyway,
so confused. Maybe he got podiums.
all that
I
to
think I
say,
think he's had two podiums in the past. Yeah.
all that to say, besides Alex Palou running away with it, which really didn't get shown much on the broadcast after a certain point, the rest of it was genuinely a pretty enjoyable watch to the point where, I mean, it ended before like the other races really started in full, but I had I had my multi-screen setup, including some other stuff going on, like the Gotham FC, like the New York women's soccer team was playing at the time. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds were playing at the time before some of the races started, but I was glued to the IndyCar broadcast throughout, which I don't know. I feel like I can't often say for NASCAR, and it really depends on the week with F1 because the presentation style is really good, but sometimes the racing product just is not.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
no, no, no.
Um. So the next IndyCar race is this Saturday, May 10th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's an 85 lap Sunseal Grand Prix. Your previous winner in 2024 was Alex Palou. And I have Alex Palou winning it again. He's dominant. Again, we've talked about this. He's dominant. It's basically a surefire win every week at this point. Alex Palou, you are the winner. Jack, who do you have?
Well, so with that, I am gonna pick Christian Lundgaard, just because he's been consistent all year. Um, I kind of keep wanting to pick Andretti guys because I mean obviously Kirkwood won a race, but I want to see Herta win again and stuff like that. But if they're back to shooting themselves in the foot, and Penske isn't quite like Penske, I'm just going to go with Lundgaard and a McLaren, where they've seemed like they've made some steps this year, and he's been really consistent.
It's a good pair. It's a fair pair. Um, that'll be it for today's episode. Um, got through some news articles, got through recaps and predictions for next week, and that'll be it. Jack, do you have any closing remarks?
I think I've yapped enough. That
All right.
was a
Thank
lengthy
you guys
IndyCar
for,
discussion.
yeah, it was. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day, and tune in next week for the next episode of Apex 2 Oval.